Hello friend, RG12 here. I'm guessing unless you've been living in a remote jungle in a coma or something different, you've heard about the global situation with Iran. Now nobody likes war. I've fought in war, I know what it's like, and it has a lot of consequences, as we know. If we think back to the Iraq War and Afghanistan, I was dead against both of those previous wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. I believe we were brought into the wars, especially Iraq, under a pretense of weapons of mass destruction, which turned out to be complete and utter lies. If you look up a man called Dr. David Kelly, who I believe lost his life because he didn't go along with the narrative of weapons of mass destruction. So, I'm not a warmonger. However, this new type of warfare that is being prosecuted against Iran is not going to be boots on the ground. Nothing like happened in Iraq and Afghanistan, because you just get sucked into a quagmire. Foreign troops on someone else's soil, it never usually works out well. It's up to the Iranian people, the Persians, to get back their country, and they're getting a little nudge of help from the United States and Israel. They won't get any help from, unfortunately, our country, even though Cyprus, our own RAF bases there in Akrotiri, have been under attack from Iran, but under this shameless, cowardly Prime Minister that we've got, who hardly anybody likes, do they? Let's be honest. Even a lot of left-wing people don't like him. But the truth of the matter is, America does not need us, although we are supposedly an ally. They could have used Diego Garcia in the beginning, but Starmer refused, and B-1 bombers, and had to take off from the United States of America, making it much longer. Now he's done his usual U-turn flip-flop, and he's allowing the use of Diego Garcia bases in the UK. Diego Garcia and the Chagos Islands, I've done a video on that, and that's another contentious issue, but we'll leave that aside for one moment. But this Iranian regime, this for those that don't understand why this has come about, this is going back to the Iranian Revolution. In fact, as a side note, I can remember when I first joined my regiment, I was an anti-aircraft missile operator, and British Aerospace was building tracked Rapier missiles for the Shah of Iran. He was deposed. We ended up getting them, and I remember at the time they were like sandy coloured, and we had to paint them green for use in West Germany and British Army of the Rhine. But yeah, you've got to go back to the timeline of terror from 1979 to the previous 2026. From 79 to 2026, one truth has echoed across continents, across decades, across the graves of the innocent, where the Iranian regime and its proxies move terror across the globe. And today, I'll lay out the history, not as a cold timeline, but as a moral indictment, a record of suffering that demands to be spoken aloud. Because silence is complicity, and the world has been silent for far too long. If you think about it, if you look at the left today, if you had their mindset in during the war years, Second World War, they could be shown footage of the horrendous atrocities carried out by the Nazis in the concentration camps. They still wouldn't justify any military action, most of them. In fact, they would probably say it was AI and deny it happened. We know it happened, and it's a good job that it was documented. But it's like that today. A lot of people, a bit like having a football team, they're on one side of the equation and they won't waver, they'll stick to their ways without really looking. Sometimes we're wrong. I've been wrong. And sometimes you're best to put your hand up and say, yeah, I was wrong on that. But yeah, getting back to the revolution, going back to 1979, it began with a storming. This is why the Americans, particularly the Americans, have a problem with Iran. Not so much the Democrats and the Obama and Bidens, who seem to think if they just give them billions of dollars and said, please don't make a nuclear bomb, they'd do it. President Trump has a different way of doing it, and whatever you think of him, they listen to him, and they're listening to it now with a big stick. But it began with the storming of the US embassy in Tehran. 52 American diplomats were held hostage for 444 days. A government born in the shadow of blindfolded prisoners paraded before cameras, used as bargaining chips. That moment wasn't an accident, it was a blueprint. And that's when it all really started, wasn't it? 1980, the exporting the fear abroad. In Maryland, a dissident named Ali Akbar Tabatabai is assassinated on American soil by an Iranian agent. The message was unmistakable. We can reach you anywhere. But they did. And so it went on. 1980s, a global campaign of assassinations. Across Europe, the Middle East and the United States, Iranian dissidents were hunted down. Writers, activists, former officials murdered in cold blood. Not soldiers, not combatants, just voices the regime wanted silenced. This wasn't foreign policy. This was state-engineered murder. And they've carried it on to this day, haven't they? 1983, the age of the proxy terror. In Lebanon, Hezbollah, Iran's most infamous proxy, unleashed a wave of kidnappings and bombings. Westerners were abducted, tortured, and traded like currency. Families wait years for answers that never come. Iran didn't just support Hezbollah, they built it, funded it, armed it, directed it, and the world pretended not to see. And some people, sadly, in our government, in this present day, have blindfolds on. Up to the 1990s, terror without borders. Throughout the decade, Iranian intelligence orchestrates assassinations in Germany, France, Switzerland, Turkey, a shadow war against the exiles. And in 1994, an AMAI Jewish community centre in Argentina is bombed. 85 civilians murdered, a community shattered. Investigators point to Iran and Hezbollah, surprise, surprise. Yet justice remains elusive, because geopolitics always seem to outweigh human lives. Then we go to the 2000s, the quiet expansion. While the world focused on other wars, Iran expanded its reach, funding Hamas arming Islamic Jihad, training militias in Iraq, embedding itself in Syria. Every rocket fired at civilians, every suicide bombing, every hostage dragged into a tunnel carried the fingerprints of Tehran's money, weapons, Tehran's strategy. And on it goes. 2012, a global wave of attacks. In one coordinated year, Iranian-linked operatives target Israeli diplomats and civilians in Bulgaria, India, Thailand, Georgia. Bombs under cars, explosives on buses, tourists murdered simply for being Jewish. This is not resistance, this is not liberation, this is terrorism, pure and simple. The 2020s. The 2010s to the 2020s, a new era, kidnapping plots and intimidation. All across Europe and the United States, Iranian networks are caught planning assassinations, kidnappings, bombings, surveillance of journalists and dissidents. Denmark, France, Sweden, Albania, United States, the targets, writers, activists, refugees, people who fled Iran seeking safety, only to find the regime shadow waiting for them. 2020, the threat grows bolder. As the decade progresses, Iran's proxies escalate. Hostage-taking, rocket attacks, cross-border raids, cyber operations, attempts to abduct critics abroad. The regime's message is unchanged. We will silence anyone who stands against us. But the world's message has been far too weak. Please don't. Bit like a Starmer message, isn't it? Doesn't work, does it? And then we come sort of up to where we're at. Today, in 2026, we stand at the end of nearly half a century of hostage crisis, bombings, assassinations, and proxy wars linked to the Iranian state and its armed networks. We've had 47 years of diplomats held at gunpoint, civilians blown apart, journalists kidnapped, dissidents murdered, communities terrorised, families left with empty chairs at the tables. And still, too many governments whisper when they should speak, negotiate when they should condemn, appease when they should demand accountability. The moral truth is, terror is terror, no matter who funds it, no matter what flag it hides behind, no matter what ideology it claims to serve. And hostage-taking is not diplomacy. It's not resistance. It's not politics. It is a crime against humanity. For 47 years, the Iranian regime and its proxies have used terror as a tool of statecraft. And for 47 years, the world has allowed it. That is why it matters. Because memory is a weapon against impunity. Because truth is the first step towards justice. Because the victims deserve more than silence. I just want to say, I pay my deepest condolences to the warriors that have died in this operation. And I hope it can all swiftly be brought to some sort of peaceful settlement where the Persian people reclaim their country from the psychopathic, mad ayatollahs that have basically had them living in a hell for decades. It could be a fantastic country, Persia. It could be a place where many of us from the West go on holiday. Beautiful, beautiful mountainous scenery. Beautiful place. Beautiful people. So that's what a country is. It's not a flag. It's not an ideology. It's the people. And the Persian people deserve Peace. So anyway, I hope that's been informative to people that maybe not really know what's happening, why this is happening, what's going on. And thanks for watching. It's my opinion. Yours might be different. Fair enough. We're all allowed it. Well, sometimes we're allowed it, sometimes not. So thank you, and God bless. RG12 out.